It's one of those moments that I really don't interrupt. But I can't have Kathy Sledge here and not have a little chat about this particular record that she's covered. The Stevie Wonder composition, Another Star. The legend, another legend is here. Kathy, how are you?
Hey, I am so good. It's always good to be here on My Soul. I'm great.
Do you know what? I was very surprised because I went to the Boysdale Music Awards, and as I got there, you walked in as I was like,
I know. I was like, we've got to stop meeting again.
People start talking, you know. So yeah, we was like, okay, if you're here, it'd be lovely for you to come in the studio. It's like, yeah, let's just do it.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy this worked out. Because I'm here.
So, what's been going on? You're here. I know you presented an award at the Boysdale Awards, which was really good, wasn't it?
That was exciting. And I love the room. It was amazing. Hopefully I'll do some more stuff there. In the meantime, I was actually here to do a run of shows. I've worked out something with Soho House, and we closed down the Ned the other night. It was Lost in Music Night. And
really?
It was packed. We sold out. And the whole idea is just to show, basically, the music has resurfaced, and the show is so relevant and very cool. So I got a chance to do that. That's why my voice is half gone.
Your voice is just
so much fun.
Gorgeous. So I want to talk about that in a little bit of detail, actually. So is it something, how has that come about? So it's Soho House, and you're doing a string of shows there, and then there was one point of it is just Sister Sledge classics.
Yeah, well,
right?
Definitely what I've noticed is, especially in the festivals, and there's a whole new generation, eclectic, fun crowd, which you welcome your followers that love your music from the early days, and now I'm seeing this whole new resurgence, and they know every lyric. And what I worked with Soho House is, at one point I started doing it globally, and I started doing it in Miami and LA and here in London, and then we worked out an idea, because it's like a direct market that loves the music, and I'm thinking this is a very cool way to reintroduce to the kids that don't know, and now they do. And then also the production itself is fire. Like, honestly, you can see I'm falling out of my chair. The whole idea of what Sister Sledge brought to the industry, the first girl group to ever dance full on the way we do, open doors to do that breakthrough for acts like Spice Girls and TLC.
Vogue, you were before on Vogue. There's so many groups.
But before us, it was more Supremes, LaBelle. And I thought, this is pretty iconic. When you see the 3 microphones and gowns, you think of Supremes. And I want you to. When you see those 4 bodies, it's like, that's Sister Sledge.
Yeah.
And so that's starting to really, really evolve into something huge. And I'm loving it. So it's a way to take the brand to be very iconic, which I believe it deserves.
I need to come and see that show.
You have to see it.
So you've done a string of them at Soho House, or have you moved it around the UK?
Well, we've been doing festivals. Right. And Soho House, of course, is a more direct market. But now the upcoming tour is a combination of, I get to come up close and personal. We're starting in November, and we're working our way north all the way down through your country.
Amazing.
Amazing. And it's but this is a little different. It's a festival where we get lost in music. But before that, there's a whole part of the show that kind of chronologically takes you through Sister Sledge, our story, the story behind it. So I actually am sticking a carrot out there for a West End transitional production.
Wow,
so it's exciting. It's exciting to know our story. And then it's exciting to dance, because we do dance.
Absolutely. Listen, I want to dig deeper into your story then, if you will allow us to do that here. I've still got, because this is a drive time show, I've still got to keep people moving across town and stuff like that.
Okay.
But if you would, I would love to sort of talk about almost you and your Sister Sledge in a chronological fashion, from kind of, I think you started in 1971, would I be right in saying that? And so from that point, I would even like to talk to you about a little bit before how it all started. So if we can do that. See? when you got legends in the house and you get these little nuggets of information,
I haven't heard this.
It's a beautiful thing. So, Protect Our Love. That's taken from the very first Sister Sledge
Circle
album,
of Love.
1975, Circle of Love.
Oh my goodness, I was so happy to hear this. I forgot when it came on. I was like, "Oh, I like that song," not realizing it was ours.
There you go.
Wow.
So you guys must be so used to hearing all the stuff from your third album,
early
really,
days.
We Are
Yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
It's. Well, I wouldn't say it's easy for you guys to forget, but I'm sure. When was the last time you would have performed?
No, it's easy to forget. Trust me.
But that's what I'm saying. When would you perform? Would you have ever performed
I
this
would.
since those albums?
It's funny, but I get a lot of requests for the early songs too, and I try to get what I can in the shows. One I always get is "Mama Never Told Me." I get that a lot,
Right.
And then I get some of the things from our We Are Family album, some of the ballads back at home in the U.S. I get songs like "Next Time You'll Know," Nard and Michael Walden. So I do a whole section where I do the ballads, and because we don't get a chance to hear those. I had one friend that wrote me and he goes, "So I get it. So like, where do I go when I want to hear like How to Love and Next Time You'll Know?" And so I did a medley of that. And so it's important to me. You have so many people support you throughout the years.
Of course. But don't know anything before the We Are Family album, which is so important. And it's definitely be a beautiful thing for you to explain that sometimes, when, especially if you come to London and you're doing certain gigs, there'll be like the real anoraks, the real heads, the soul people that know every single word to all your early albums as well. But yeah, it's nice to explain that and maybe do a little medley sometimes before doing stuff before the We Are Family album.
Well, what's interesting is the tour that I am doing is just that. Like the first 40 minutes, I will walk you through the early days and some of our story too. Like, knowing that my father was one of the first African-American tap dancers on Broadway. Wow. And my mother was in movies, and I have clips of this stuff. And
have you?
Yeah, everyone thinks it started with us. My grandmother was an opera singer. And then here we come. It's funny because I can't ever remember me as a little girl saying, I want to be a singer when I grow up. We just sang. We harmonized while we were playing jump rope or jacks, or you guys have jacks here, right?
What's jacks again?
Jacks is when you like throw the little, like, they look like little. I can't believe I'm explaining.
We did jump
jacks.
rope. We did jump rope. We did hopscotch. We did all those kind of things.
All those things we would sing and we would harmonize, and like the soundtrack of our life back then was like the soundtrack to Mary Poppins, and we would sing all these songs, West Side Story, and I thought everyone could harmonize. I really did, and so I talk about that in this production, the backstory of how we really got started, and then you get to walk through it with us.
Oh, that's
I can't talk about.
I
Sister
need to go and check it out.
It is so cool.
But I want to talk about it on air here, like what happened. Circle of Love, 1975. You girls started off in 1971, but how did it get together? I mean, like you said, you was just harmonizing, but there must have been a point where you went, you know what? Sister Sledge, we're going to do this thing. We're going to start recording.
Well, we were the Sledge sisters, and one night, of course, the DJ was drunk, and he introduced us backwards. And my sister Carol is like my favorite sister. She's the oldest. She is my running buddy. She goes, "That's kind of cool." And we're like, "Really? Just leave it?" Everything was like coincidental destiny, I guess. But even the name. But I think what I've learned more than anything is that it was like destiny. Like we always would sing. One day, someone's band walked out on them 2 weeks before the show and asked us to sing, and they pay us. And I was like, to myself, I was like, yo, I would do this for free. You're going to pay me for this? And of course, it helped out with our mother. We were a single parent, and she held down like 3 jobs. And we were like, what we could do in one night, she would make in a weekend. And, we thought this is a no-brainer, and we love it. And that was really the story.
Was that the first gig that you did when someone had dropped out?
Yeah, someone dropped out. We went and bought some Afro wigs because it was like, the Jackson 5 days and little outfits and some microphones. And we did a show. But that was the first professional gig because we were paid. But before that, we actually really did sing at my grandmother's church parties and all that stuff. We were always singing.
So you did come through like a little church route as well?
Oh, yeah, we did. My grandmother, really, our background was more spiritual music, which not gospel as much. but very beautiful melodies. And we would learn these harmonies and melodies. And I know this sounds crazy, but it's true. I remember my grandmother teaching us on the piano. We had this old upright black piano in our dining room.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see the keys. So I was that short. I'm like, now that I think of it, I was like, whoa, must have been around 3 or 4 years old.
Wow, yeah.
But I would remember my harmony. So it's destiny that we have a song now that I always feel like brought the world together as a family. You know?
Yeah, of course.
It's very special.
It's a huge record. We Are Family. That whole album anyway, that touched the souls. It still does. You know, when people get married or, you know, whatever circumstance. I've said that to you before. And that was another record I spoke to you the last time you was here, was Thinking of You.
Oh my gosh, I love
It's a record that, you know, you could put on at any moment for any emotion, anything you're going through at that time. It's just so sort of apt for many reasons. So you were born in Philadelphia?
I was.
Is that right?
I just want to add on Thinking of You. I literally just closed Carnegie Hall with Thinking of You in the United States with the whole Club Quarantine, D-Nice. It became the theme song. And now it's having a resurgence. And now I'm actually doing another remix with one of the guys from The Roots, James Posner of The Roots. And we're talking to Warner Music about Thinking of You. Thinking of You is the gift that keeps on giving. I love that song.
Yeah.
And it's new to so many people at home. And it's always been like as big as family here.
Huge.
So it's just a feel-good song.
So you're going to be re-recording it with James?
I am.
James
A remix.
Okay.
And the Demetria Paris's remix is amazing.
I play that all the time. Not going to lie.
Yeah, that's...
Any opportunity, I will get that on. I do love that record. For sure.
We'll be doing an EP of some remixes, mainly that one. But at the end of the day, the resurgence that we feel here is starting to happen in the States. And I feel like keeping it relevant. The whole production is very relevant.
But you say resurgence though, Kathy, but your records have never stopped being played. So it's not
crazy.
even a resurgence, is it? Because, you know, those records that we're mentioning, We Are Family gets played all the time. Not just at special occasions, but, you know, clubs. You know, Lost in Music. There's been, Dimitri's done a great remix of that one that gets played all the time. Just mentioned Thinking of You. So does it feel like a resurgence to you? Or
you know, I guess it isn't. But what I see, honestly, is I see different droves of generations come through and embrace it all over again. So it feels like it, but you're right. It just passes on. Yeah. And to be the signature voice on most of these songs, I feel honored that people know all the ad lib. And I'm a stickler for when I go to a concert, I want to sing along. I want to hear your new stuff, but I don't. I want to hear what I know. So
I think that's 99.9% of the world population.
I appreciate your new music, but can I sing along with Thinking of You or Greatest Dancer or you know? So that's what's special, and I think I make sure that in our productions it sounds just like the record. It has to.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Because I've seen you a couple of times live as well, as you do. Margate was one. That was the first time we'd met, and
that's right.
You came and had a chat with us. But the versions that you did that was on stage was very close to the original. And I believe that is really important because, you know, you go on stage, you do some flipped up version, you're just like,
you know,
I don't know.
Stevie, we mentioned him earlier. He's, years ago, he was a mentor to me. He'd call me back. I wouldn't say he'd call. And I remember once, he mentioned that's not fair to your fans to do it any other way. And I think of that now. It's like people save up their money and they come to see a show and they want to hear what they know and they want to sing what they sing along to. And that's very important to me, especially in producing concerts.
Absolutely. No, that's really important. And I totally agree with you on that. And talking about Stevie, I'm going to play a Sister Sledge rendition of a Stevie track from your second album, Together, that came out in 1977. We're going to just do a traffic and travel update. We need to do that quickly, and then we're going to go into some more old school Sister Sledge music. There you go, the Sister Sledge rendition of I Was Made to Love Her, or Him, as you've said on the album. And I got the amazing Kathy Sledge here, by the way. That was taken from your the Sister Sledge second album,
the very
Together.
Early, Together.
It's the early years. That's what I'm saying. We're doing the early years.
That was with the Fly Robin Fly people, the Silver Convention.
Wow.
I know. We're going back.
That came out on Magnet Records. I think it's like, I don't know. Was it 1977 that was?
I know.
Wasn't it?
And what was crazy is I remember I had been over there for a month recording.
Yeah.
And then we got home and we just worked with the Fly Robin Fly people, and then the record company said, now we want you to work with the Yowza Yowza Yowza. And I was like, nah, I kind of want to go back to school.
Niall and Bernard, was that?
And of course, the rest is history. We ended up doing that.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, the transition between working with those guys like Silver Convention, and you said you worked with Gwen Guthrie on the first album, and she sort
Bert Takuto, he produced it. It was very famous with the main ingredient, a lot of their music.
Wow.
Very lots of orchestration with Bert. But I think it was like finding the perfect marriage. And of course, Niall and Bernard brought out all of that.
Yeah.
It was very interesting working with them. I was not allowed to hear one song until it was time to sing it. We Are Family, Greatest Dancer was line for line. In fact, Greatest Dancer was their record, and I Want Your Love was ours.
What,
and if you listen,
when you say their record, was it theirs as in a Chic record?
It was going to be on their Chic album, and I Want Your Love was Sister Sledge's. And at the last minute, they flipped it. So if you listen to I Want Your Love, there's lots of harmonies with Sister Sledge in there. And but that's how the late Bernard Edwards, who I thought was so genius, and of course Niall is a genius, but they knew what they wanted. And being very young, being 15 when I started recording with them, it was, I wasn't allowed to hear anything. So I trusted. That's the word that comes in more than ever. Just trust me. And I looked at it as if you're given a script as an actor. And the director knows exactly what the end game is going to be like. So if they want you to sing it a certain way, or We Are Family, I remember doing one take of the ad-lib, and I was just getting geared up, and they're like, we got it. I was like, no, I'm just getting started.
Just warm it up.
So, of course, they edited and moved things around, but that was done in one take, the ad-lib of We Are Family.
That's incredible. So when you say they wouldn't let you listen to the record before you was about to get in and actually...
It was time.
How did you get to...
I think, honestly, to this day, that's why it still has an edge of spontaneity. They believed in, we don't want it to sound rehearsed, we want it to sound new. Thinking of You. I remember Bernard was writing Thinking of You while I was singing, recording He's the Greatest Dancer. And Greatest Dancer was line for line. Okay, cut. One Night in the Disco. Okay, cut. Next line is On the Outskirts of Frisco. Cut. And so, but again, they saw the vision, and I just trusted. And I think, I think it was a very interesting way to record. But I think when you have producers like Niall and Bernard, you trust totally. They know what they're doing. And they had a formula that worked. Most of the backgrounds were laid before we got there. Of course, with Luther Vandross and Fonzie Thornton and Alpha Anderson and Lucy Martin. And those voices were a Chic sound. And keep in mind, we were this obscure group. And so the story goes, I'll try to make it really short, but it is interesting. They'd given Columbia Records a hit, and Atlantic approached them and said, how can you have to give us a hit. We want you to produce the Rolling Stones. And they were like, no. If we produce the Rolling Stones, it's going to be a hit. Give us some obscure group that no one knows. And that would be us. And we were on this list. And the then record company president was describing us as family. They flock together as birds of a feather whenever they're up at the label. And that really is a portrait of the lyrics of We Are Family. They took down these notes. So I feel most proud that song was written about a description of us. So that's the story.
That's incredible. So it could have been the Stones, but it ended up really.
I'm glad it was ours.
For you. Oh, that's what a
and
great
they were right. They were pretty genius. So I feel like if they had produced the Stones coming off of the hits that they had, it would have been a big hit anyway. And they wanted the world to know that it's not the act. It's the strong production of the act.
Do you know what's interesting about that, though, is the fact that the Rolling Stones, although they've got kind of like, you want to call it sort of a black music influenced. I know sort of Mick Jagger was really into James Brown and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they are like a mighty pop group, aren't they?
Yeah,
do you know
they're
what I mean?
the Rolling Stones.
And at that point, Sister
they're like
Sledge,
their own market.
Yeah, exactly. So with the first two albums that's dropped from you, Together and Circle of Love, soul albums with a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely the first album, very kind of soulfully tinged, and then you've started to edge into a bit of disco because disco started to come in the late 70s and stuff.
Well, I like to always say we happened around the disco era.
Yeah.
Because we were raised like in Vegas on stage, touring, opening for acts like Bill Cosby and Dolly Parton, so we had all different genres of music by the time we did these albums, and then. When disco came along, it happened around the time. So I always feel like that is why to this day, we're not pigeonholed in one market, and but very proud to be in it. So yeah.
Classics. Do you know what? I think it's only right, Kathy, that we play "We Are Family," the title cut from that album. Let's do it. Let's do it now. I've got a legend, Kathy. I think I've heard you described as Kathy Sledgens.
The Sledges.
The Sledgens.
Well,
Legends
okay.
and Sledge
I like
working together. I
say-
kind of like that.
Well, I like to call this song the gift that keeps on giving.
There you
We're
go.
family.
That takes me back to, I was just explaining
that
to the
song.
wonderful Kathy Sledge that's joined us here live in the studio that I bought the 7 of that. It was actually, he's the greatest dancer. And on the B side was this. And I played, he's the greatest dancer. I think to the point where there was static on it. It was the vinyl was starting to wear out of the record. So I ended up turning it over. And that was the
That's
B
Joni
side.
singing too. I love that song.
Oh, it's beautiful.
In the show, we do a tribute to her in the upcoming show. But it's beautiful.
That's a beautiful thing. That really is. So Kathy, like we've gone through the first couple of albums. We're now kind of on the We Are Family album. We have to kind of stick at that for a moment. But
Okay.
actually, what I do want to ask you, taking you back again,
Okay.
were you looked after? Because obviously you were all very young. You were the baby of the crew, the 4 of you, and you know you signed up at a very young age as well. Now it's synonymous, isn't it, with the music industry that actual labels can
Kids.
take advantage, and you're with a major label as well.
Yeah.
Management can take advantage of an act if they don't really know what they're doing in terms of the business side of things. It is music business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Who was looking after you? Who was kind of guiding you through?
We were blessed. Our mother was very business savvy in the early days until we brought on new management. But the very early days, we were her daughters. So she was really protective of making sure we made the right decisions. Rule 1, we had to make sure we all finished university. Like that came first, our studies. But my mom was like, we used to call her Flo on the go. Like, you know, she's no longer with us. But I swear my mom had a propeller on her head. She was just like, she could just take off. And so the early days looked after us. Our grandmother, believe it or not, like my grandmother was my best friend.
Really?
She was an opera singer.
Yeah.
But she would travel with us. So we actually toured with Rick James for like 4 months. And I never knew he got high. So we were sheltered in a way, but you know, like the utmost respect.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I was like, Rick James
Was
gets
he a
high?
scary character? A lot of people have said that he was kind of
He
like...
was animated.
Right.
Like he loved my grandmom, and he would always give her a big kiss on her cheek, and then he'd come through the hallway in his tight pants. I remember touring with Red Fox in the Vegas days, and we were always told, if you see Red Fox in the hallway, get in your room. Go to your room.
Wow, seriously? Oh
In
my
a
God.
funny way, because he was a character. But he had a little reputation for the young girls.
Wow.
So we would always hear these funny stories. Actually, there's a lot of funny stories behind the growing up with Sister Sledge. But Rick James, I never knew he got high, even though he would salute a gigantic blunt on stage, Mary Jane. But the good side of that is that there was always the utmost respect. I mean, people treated us like the Waltons, honestly.
Yeah.
But
That's good. That's good to know.
that is good. I mean, you know, I don't regret that. I feel like that's one of the biggest compliments you can get.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
But
kind of bringing
it
you
was
through and kind of looking after you.
Truly experienced.
Yeah.
It was fun.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about was you was kind of, I mean, you said off mic that you were kind of allocated as or you'd always say that all the girls would sing the records.
Oh yeah, that was rule
Each of you
thumb.
would sing all the records, but you was kind of allocated as
Oh yeah, that was awkward sometimes because you know the producers would walk in. Narada Michael Walden would say, "I want you to sing this." Why do we have to go through each sister? Because that was our policy, each sister. And then I, sadly enough, got a chance to have dinner, well, happily enough, with Bernard, the late Bernard Edwards. But he said, you said, like, we would want you to sing whatever, and you just sit there and grin. And I go, well, you know, everybody has to try it. I was a kid then. At the end of the day, it's a huge compliment to be a signature voice. But it does come with its challenges. And I had challenges, you know, I think most groups have challenges sometimes when you're a signature voice. I remember touring with the Jacksons for 2 months. And I wanted to walk up to Michael and go, do they do you like they do me? Like, do you feel guilty?
There's a
that
little
you're
bit of
singing all the
resentment there,
songs?
maybe?
Or you feel guilty in a way because you know everyone sings, but you happen to have a voice that they love. Or or sound that they want. And one thing I make sure of to this day is that sound is still there with the show and with the music, because that's what made it a hit. So that's what has to remain.
Do you think that was the kind of, I was going fast forwarding a little bit, if you like, because you still did you do the All American Girls album and stuff like that afterwards?
Narda. Yeah, that was rough for Narda, because he had to come off of the Chic stuff. And he had to come off with songs that, I was just having a conversation with Jim Harris, Jimmy Jam. We're doing some stuff together now, but he was saying he loved All American Girls because he stayed close to Nile, the groove, but he was his own producer. He was himself with that too.
Right.
And that's a challenge too.
Absolutely, because it doesn't sound like any of the previous albums, does it?
No, but he had to be Narada too. So yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, I mean, it was. I kind of wanted to know if there was any kind of any conversations between you and the sisters where they turned around and said,
jealousies?
Actually, yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, but I'm back.
Okay.
And you love them, Yeah. People ask, will you ever get back together? I'm like, that's like asking Tina to go back with Ike. The thing is, I love my sisters, but I think that we shared and gave a lot to this industry. And I think the best thing is, the most important thing is to really be a family.
Yeah.
If anything gets in the way of that, then that's not worth it.
No,
honestly.
It isn't. It really isn't.
No.
So, so that moment, sort of, that ship has sailed now. And there would be no chance of a
hologram?
There wouldn't be a chance of a hologram between you guys.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
But there wouldn't be you guys reforming for a tour or something like that.
Who knows? I think you never say never. But I do know that I'm at a place where the creativity is just exploding, and seeing the reaction and being able to take these productions and what I'm doing to the level that it is. I think the dynamics are interesting. So I think to be able to do it is healthy. So who knows? I mean, you never say never.
Yeah.
But I'm on a place right now that I'm very excited, and watching the crowds and being involved in the way that I can be involved now is very exciting.
What about when you broke away and you did Heart? Was there kind of like, because they came back and they done an album, didn't they, with quite a few sort of Sister Sledge covers, and there was some Chic covers on there.
That's interesting too, because I would like it to be well known that I never left the group. I was asked to leave the group. Right. I was given an ultimatum. I was told, if you do an album, you got to go. And so I didn't want to not do an album. Everyone else that did solo projects, I think I was a threat to do something. But I think people have learned now that again, I keep saying repeatedly, growth is important and growth is healthy. And so I did do my project, but then I did return. There's been different configurations of us through the years. And so now I think what's important now is I'm making sure that all of our social media sites show the faces of the original sisters and who we are. And we can all do our own things. It's enough. My grandmother used to always say, there's enough room to go around. And that's good. And you can still hear the hits, and you can still enjoy the sisters. And maybe we will do something one day. I am at a place where I'm enjoying what I'm doing now.
Listen, however you want to play it, I'm there. I'm going to read just a few of these messages out, Kathy, because you're getting a lot of love on the gram here. Shout out to Original Soul Music Pictures, says, evening, Ronnie, great show as always, and the interview with Kathy Sledge is off the Richter scale.
Wow.
Wayne Manny says, another beautiful gem. Boba Fat, who's big in the game, says, been a wicked show, Ronnie. Salute to Queen Kathy.
Oh, thank you, Bubba.
Matt says, wow, what a fantastic interview, Kathy says. You're getting a lot of love. And I've got a nice email here as well.
Cool.
studio@mi-soul.com if you want to continue to get the emails in. It says, Kathy Sledge sounds so interested and knowledgeable and in tune with her fans. Absolutely loving it. Which you are in tune with your fans, which is just lovely.
Thank you so much.
So there's quite a few things I want to touch on now, Kathy, which is you're doing some new music.
Yes.
And you've been approached by Jimmy Jam for one. What's happening? Well,
it was so interesting. Years back, I would say like maybe 5 years back, I did an impromptu Grammy party with Nile and Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. So Jam was there, Jim Harris. And he texted me the next day and he goes, I'm writing for your voice, which has come full circle because we've always talked about wanting to work together.
Really?
And he sent me songs that he feels like they give homage to Chic. Basically, he said, we're going to recreate the Chic sound. And one of the songs sounds more like Chic than Chic. And so he's had conversations with Niall. We'll see what happens. But I'm so hyped at the idea of, I've been collaborating and writing with him. And now Thinking of You is having a resurgence. My whole production just closed Carnegie Hall with D Nice and with Thinking of You, because it's the theme song and the version you just played. And now one of the guys from The Roots, James Fosner, is coming on board to do a remix. So I'm Thinking of You.
Yeah.
And what's happening here is really starting to take full force in the United States. So I'm just happy to be like riding the wave of this. It's very exciting.
Almost planting the seeds for a new sound of everything, but
and I'm
with
keeping
new
it
music
relevant. Like I feel like it's the new music will stay very close to what we love and know.
Yeah.
And I think it's like there's such a place for it now. And I'm seeing it. I said Resurgence earlier, where you're saying it's always been there.
It's always been there.
I know, and I see and feel that, and I love that. Yeah.
I can't wait. If that happens, I mean,
Oh my
I
gosh.
can't see it probably
Before we
until
go, I'll play a
next
little
year.
hint.
Have you got something? Have you got a little something? Not
I
that
do,
we can
for
play
you.
on air, but yeah, that'd
It's
be
rough, but
amazing.
When he plays it for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds like Niall. This is so cool.
Got it. And would you work with Niall again? Was that something
yeah,
that you would
I
have
would love to
a
work with
conversation
Niall.
about again?
I haven't, but Jam has had conversations about doing some things, and I know that they totally respect each other.
Yeah.
I did an interview with Jam. I have a mother-daughter talk show called Family Room.
Really?
That now we're talking to. Yeah, because We Are Family has 32 million streams alone, and it doesn't make sense not to have a show along with this. So my daughter and I have a show called Family Room on Instagram, on We Are Family TV on Instagram. And we actually come on every Wednesday, and we've built this big following, and now we are talking to higher platforms or bigger platforms. But with that said, Niall we've interviewed him on our show. And we've interviewed, Jam. And what's so crazy is, I think we've interviewed Kool and the Gang too, but they have told us, Niall has told us that Kool and the Gang was his group that he really got incentive from, and Jam and Lewis told us that Niall and Bernard gave them incentive. So it's like seeing all this come together. It's very cool.
Wow.
It's very exciting.
6 degrees of separation.
And I get
almost,
to work with all of them.
Listen, I can't wait to hear something that you're going to play us, and I'll make
Thank
sure
you.
I'll tell everybody how amazing it is.
Yeah.
So the other thing I know you wanted to really sort of talk about is what you're doing with the shows and when they are and how people can find out about them, which is really important.
Well, definitely you're going to see it more and more on social media, but it starts at the northern part of your country. We're going to work all the way down. There's 21 dates. I know it's very exciting in November, starting the 1st to I think the 21st. And we actually, again, if you've seen the festivals over the summer, then you definitely will see it there. And I know that we have a lot of big fans from the early days coming already subscribing to see the show. I'd love to get the festival goers out too, because it's definitely our story, as well as be ready to dance, because it's everything that you see in the festival, as well as getting to know the story behind, through my own words, of growing up in a group that I like to say changed the world when it comes to family.
Absolutely. Oh, listen, I'm there, front row, centre. What's the tour going to be called?
It's called Sister Sledge Live.
Okay.
And it's featuring Kathy Sledge. It's actually called Thinking of You, but it's Sister Sledge Live featuring Kathy Sledge. But I decided to use Thinking of You because I think we already, like, We Are Family is such an anthem, and it is We Are Family any way you look at it. But Thinking of You is one of my favorite songs to perform, and it's a lot of love in my heart for that. So
yeah. Well, I can see why. No doubt about it. 2 more questions. The release of your Heart album, 1995.
Heart is my heart.
How was that? How was it making that album? It was the first album without your sisters.
That was very interesting. It was a solo project. I like to make that clear. I never really left the group. I was asked to do a solo project, and I really wanted to do it. And I got a chance to sit with the late Bernard Edwards after the album was released, and he says to me, I thought it was a great compilation of songs, great songs. He said, was missing the thread, which is what I will do now when I work with Jam. But I think it was a venture that I always wanted to do, especially the title song Heart I wrote. And I'm noticing more and more, it just got re-released on Epic Records.
Yeah.
So you can actually get it on all of the streaming outlets.
Yeah. It's available
it's
on
my baby.
iTunes and Amazon. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I know there's the last question I want to ask you, which is quite important to me because I sort of like to play records from new artists and new groups or what have you, and try and help break new artists. What advice would you, as a legend in the game, give to a young upcoming artist, or whether it's solo or whether in a group? What would you say to them just starting out, whether it's a family as well, especially coming from a family?
Yeah, I think you should always follow your heart with your music. Go with your gut. I always say gut means God. He's talking to you. Like, go with your gut. There were times when I wanted to do solo projects and I would hold back. But I think timing is everything too. But I think I would tell groups, know your presence. Like, I always use the Beatles, for example. I go, you got Paul McCartney up front. We love Paul. And then, of course, there's John Lennon. And then, of course, there's George Harrison. And then there's Dwayne Jones. And people go, no, that was Ringo Starr in the drums. And I go, exactly.
Yeah.
And his presence was just as huge as Paul McCartney's.
Yeah.
So you have to know, when you're in a group, you might not be up front, but your presence is huge. And I think if groups really realize that, that's what makes a group so strong. I would give that advice to new groups all the time, And then for solo artists, stay true to your heart. Don't go after having a hit. Go after having great music, and the rest will come. I think there are times when you hear that, Sting has a new album. You're just going to go download it. You're not going to wait to hear if it's a hit. So when you have a sound that you've created, like if you hear Sade has a new project out, I'm getting it. I don't need to wait to see if it's going to. So really work what's true to your heart and do music that portrays who you are. And I think you can't lose.
Is that kind of as opposed to trying to make or manufacture a record for radio or a specific area of radio? Just do what comes out.
Yeah, do what comes out. And I have collaborated with lots of different artists like Horse Meat Disco. We did Fallen Deep in Love, which I love. But I get a chance to choose the songs now. When I was younger, I did not get a chance to choose them as much. On the We Are Family album, there was no choice. But who's complaining about that? But I think, you get a chance to write, especially if you're a writer. Definitely write your music collaborate with musicians. Do you. And that's what I've learned. That stays true. Because when you are yourself, it's not like you're trying to fool anyone, and you'll always be your best. And I always get this question with We Are Family. People ask, am I ever tired of singing it? And I always use the line that Tony Bennett, bless his heart, we just lost him. But people asked him, do you ever get tired of singing I Left My Heart in San Francisco? And his answer was, do you ever get tired of making love? It's like, it's just that. It's just,
and that's
magic.
Just the thing.
Yeah,
do you know what?
Right?
To solidify that point, I do a lot of these soul weekenders. There was an artist that he did like 3 or 4 tracks. It was just a PA, and he did the 3 tracks, but he didn't do his biggest record. I was like, what happened? Like, are you going to go back and do an encore? He was like, no. And I was like, that's like Stevie Wonder not doing kind of as, or I couldn't understand it. And, that was just one of the things that always baffled me. And so I
you got to do all the hits.
You got to do your hits, man. You got
Every
to do your
single
hits.
one
It's
if you can.
so important. That's amazing advice from both angles, as a solo artist and as a group member, because I do think a lot of groups do end up falling out because they either resent the front person
or they don't think that they're as important, where they're very, very important. Their presence is huge. They're missing if they're not there. And so I think if groups realize that more, and then of course sometimes the front people, you gotta watch them sometimes. Sometimes they feel like I actually never had that thought. I've always loved being in a group, and I think that even today, like I harmonize, I use dancers on stage. I want to give what we gave, and I feel like I really do. But I think that that is important with groups. Like know your presence and know how huge you are.
Yeah. Amazing. I could talk to you all day, all night, and like twice on Sunday.
We are. This is great.
I do. We're going to take a break now. Actually, we got to do some traffic and travel. The last bulletin, but thank you so much, Kathy Sledge.
Thank you.
You are forever a legend and a queen in my eyes.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Thank you for having me.
Whenever you come into the UK, please come and see us.
You're going to be sorry you told me that.
Can we make some noise for Kathy Sledge, please?
Thank you.
Amazing.